How about doxing? Juan Castro.
Okay, so perfect example. You have a presidential candidate in Castro on the Democratic side who goes and publicly reveals Trump's donor list, and lo and behold, one of them happened to be his own donor.
And that's his brother, right? His twin brother did that. It wasn't the presidential candidate, but it was his twin brother that put that out there, who's also a congressional representative.
Yes, in Texas. So, yes, that's right, correcting me. So, I mean, everyone's trying to say, well, no, that's not doxing. That was publicly available information. They just, they just shined a light on it. But if and this is this is one of the challenges that comes in with what the Democrats unfortunately are now exercising. And you've seen things from Beto O'Rourke, who's also, what is he, polling at 1% or something like that?
Oh, he's such a liar.
And Cory Booker, same thing. Maybe he's at 0.5%. I don't know. But these individuals continue to label the president a white supremacist or racist. All these things that are not the case. And if they want to go after those that had donated to the president, granted, that is public information, and if you donate below a certain threshold, you don't get listed on a report, etc. But I mean, the fact that they are willing to do that to get attention to themselves because they're polling so poorly across 20 candidates, and you know what? Everyone continues to look at these 20, 24 candidates or whatever it is. Right now, Biden is consistently polling at 30%. It behooves him to actually have more candidates in there. Biden will be the nominee if things don't change. Elizabeth Warren might be up and down, but, and there might be a flavor of the month. But as long as there's that many candidates in there splitting that socialism ideology, this extreme left-wing mentality, Joe Biden will be the nominee, and President Trump will defeat Joe Biden. And, it's going to come down to whether or not we want to continue on the path that we have, which is the Make America Great Again agenda that President Trump has incorporated, has made a central theme. And you've seen this time and time again with not just the economy, but foreign policy, how he handles himself, how he deals with tragedy, just like what just happened.
It was a beautiful, beautiful thing for those people who said and protested against our wonderful president going to El Paso and to Dayton. I say shame on you, because you would have crucified him if he had waited those 2 weeks that you wanted him to wait. And instead, you crucify him for going within 2 days of this national disaster.
Look, if President Trump found the cure for cancer, they would rip him for not releasing it earlier. If he walked on water, they would say he can't swim. Nothing this man does will ever be right in their eyes, because they have such massive hatred for him, unfortunately. And that's obviously not a very healthy way to live life, just generally speaking. And you notice how we talked about El Paso, we talked about Dayton, we haven't talked about what happened in California. What defines a mass shooting? It's 7+ victims. There's been other instances of that in California, but that's not privy to the narrative. You see more talk about El Paso versus Dayton because of who the Dayton shooter was and what his views were. You don't see people talking about that. And again, as I've said in the past, this comes down to controlling the language, controlling the argument, controlling the outcome. And that's all it ever comes down to. And that's why, unfortunately, people that pay attention to the news, sometimes they turn it off because they can't take it anymore. Sometimes they look at the news and they take it at face value. And some people look at the news and are like, all right, what's the other side saying, to try and get the whole story. Unfortunately, the discussion about red flag laws are back in point of debate, and we can have that debate. But remember what has already passed here in New Jersey. We technically have a red flag law, which is nothing more than a gun confiscation law, and unfortunately, these red flag laws violate due process.
Civil liberties.
Civil liberties. So anyone, obviously, who's a huge proponent of that should be against that. And, what's happened here in New Jersey is that there hasn't, to my knowledge, I don't think there has been any arrests related to this that have been reported.
I haven't read anything.
But the idea is that if you know someone that happens to be a gun owner and you happen to think that they are dangerous, unstable, or something like that, that you can go and call the police. The police comes, they confiscate your weapons, they arrest you, and you have to prove in front of a judge that you are sound and of good mind, etc. And nothing more than violation of due process.
Slippery slope.
and what happens if it's not just guns? What happens if it's something else? I mean, Everyone seems to focus on firearms. And again, I'll use the analogy. If your child goes and does not do so well on a spelling test, are you going to blame the pencil or the pen that he used? Or, in this case, maybe a keyboard, with today's technology in some schools? No, it's unfortunately he didn't study enough to know his words. And, the same thing. If someone's going to do something, they're going to use a knife. They're going to use a truck. They're going to use some piece of weapon to do what they're going to do. And to focus on the firearms, again, this is a debate. Look, we're willing to have this debate, but know the Constitution and know whether or not something's going to violate your rights as well as due process.
And be really, really careful, because that slippery slope is right before you when you're talking about civil liberties and wanting to take away a person's guns or anything from a person, because it goes from guns to any other thing. It's like, I think the mayor of London said knives. No, nobody's allowed to carry knives on the street. Well, of course not, but nobody's allowed to carry guns there either. But someone who is mentally unstable will. In any case, I'm here with Brian Fitzherbert, and we are Talking with Ann on WOND 1400 AM News Talk Radio. Call in line 609-927-1100, online at WONDradio.com. Stick around. We still have an hour to go. I want to talk to you.